What's up, everyone? Back for another Whodunit Beer review. And today's beer once again comes courtesy of a very good friend of mine and a viewer of the channel, Steven. So huge thanks to Steven for this beer. In the description box, I'll post a link to the beer haul video I did that contains all the goodies that Steven hooked me up with, and it's redemption time. Hopefully, anyway. So last week, I posted a Whodunit Beer review from Steven that I absolutely butchered. It was one of, if not the worst job I've ever done on a Whodunit Beer review. I was off on the ABV by like 4%. I called it a Belgian strong pale ale when it was just a wheat ale. I said it was wine barrel aged when it was just dry hopped. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. So I'm hoping to redeem myself with this one today. We'll see if I do. Now, if you're unfamiliar with what Whodunit Beer reviews are, they are essentially blind/mystery beer reviews where somebody will wrap up and conceal a beer like Steven did with this one. They will then either give or send me said beer and I'll review it like I do any other beer on my channel, with the lone exception being, of course, I have no idea what the beer is. So at the end of the review, I try to guess the beer's style, its ABV, and if I'm feeling froggy, I'll jump headfirst into it and maybe call out the beer specifically, although that is very rare. Then I will rate the beer before revealing it to both you and myself. So typically what I know about these beers, very simplistic. For instance, this one looks to be in a 12-ounce can, comes from Steven, who resides in Connecticut, and he gave me this one back in late September at BeerTuber Palooza of last year. So we're talking that I know that this can is at least 6 months old, if not older, but I know a little bit more this time around because, if you can't tell, he wrote something on the paper towel or napkin that's on the outside. He says, not a small beer. So what does he mean by that? Probably ABV-wise. So he's helping me out already, which is good based on last week. And then he says in parentheses, P.S. can is lacking in info, I believe that says, and it says, in case you want to prepare to look it up. So what I'm thinking is that this beer is one of those labels where, like, maybe it doesn't say the ABV, maybe it doesn't say specifically the ingredients in the beer, maybe it's very vague in general. So I have my tablet with me, and at the end of the review, if necessary, I will go look up the beer, assuming that, again, is necessary. So I appreciate him saying that, but a little bit of a cheat saying it's not a small beer. Of course, with my whole health issues, I understand why he did. But, ABV-wise, I guess I have my, I had my work cut out for me, but I don't. It's actually going to make it a little bit easier. Anyway, now, I didn't say this in last week's review, but here's where an excuse will pop in for last week's Whodunit. I keep these in my darker beer fridge that I keep at 54 degrees. That beer is probably better, like in the 40 to 45 degree realm. By the time I reviewed it, it was probably like 60 degrees. So that's why I messed it up. Excuses. Yeah, that's how we're rocking here. I didn't mess it up because of my palate. Mess it up because of excuses. Anyway. Oh, this one is coming out. So a little bit of an explosion. Now, yeah, that's kind of scary. That it exploded like that. Does that mean this is off? I don't know. I hope not. Oh my God. Okay, I'm going to say this right now, and I'm probably going to be wrong, and I'll probably change my answer like 8 times. If this is not barrel aged, and I think I know the barrel right off the rip, I know I'm going to mess it up, so I probably don't. But if this isn't barrel aged to what I'm smelling as it's pouring out, I'm going to go crazy. I think, I'm not going to say it, because if I do, and then I get my nose closer and I want to take it back, you'll have that first, the first thing I say, oh, there's chunks. I don't know if that comes off on camera, but there's chunks. The sediment is crazy. This is, wow, there's just tons of like proteins in there just floating around. So this has this beautiful burnt orange color. Like, it looks like a beautiful beer until you start getting closer and realize there's chunks in here. Has about a finger of an off-white, pretty creamy looking colored head. Now, last week I was like, oh, look at the legs, and it ended up being 4.9%. This does certainly have legs to it. So everything he's saying about not a small beer, what I smelled, this has to be like, I'd just say at least 9%, if not 10, just based on what I'm thinking, but who knows? Anybody else get nose? Yeah, 100%. This smells like, to me, like a rum barrel. That's what I'm smelling, right? Like, it has that spicy, it's one of two things, because I'm getting a little bit of like an apple kind of, like an apple spice. It's either going to be rum barrels or like apple brandy barrels, but I'm going to say rum right off. It has that like rum spice to it. Yeah, it's like the rum's dominating. What is that? There's a decent amount of like caramel, toffee. It has barley wine, old ale kind of like wee heavy, kind of like this to me, I feel like what I'm smelling is like a malty beer. Yeah, I'd say barley wine or old ale. So off the top of the dome piece, based on what I'm smelling, how it looks, what he said on the not the label, but the napkin or paper towel, whatever you want to call it. My first reaction is rum barrel aged English barley wine, rum barrel aged old ale, something in that realm. Probably not though. But yeah, so I'm getting rum spices. I'm getting like this apple kind of like red apple skin. Not green apple. It doesn't smell like it has any kind of like infection going on. It just smells like red apple, which is where maybe the apple brandy would come in if that's a thing. But yeah, there's caramel, there's toffee, there's like this sweeter kind of bready sensation. It's almost like marmalade on like slightly toasted, not even toasted, just marmalade on white bread. That's what I'm kind of getting in the nose. But like then you drizzled rum on it, or you're eating it with like a glass of rum. Yeah, so the nose to me, English barley wine or an old ale in rum barrels. Let's get a taste. Cheers, everyone. Thanks again, Steven. First off, it's boozy. I'm going to guess at least 10% on this one. Now, unlike last week, if this is not at least 10%, then I'm going to be surprised because there's a big warm in my chest. There's an astringency on the palate. Body on this is like higher side of medium, lower side of full. So if it is like 12, 13% or something crazy, doesn't drink like that from a body perspective, which is kind of a bummer. The mouthfeel, it's smooth, but it has a pretty big carbonation, like moderately carbonated. I'm starting to doubt myself whether this is a barley wine or an old ale of some sort. It could just be the catch-all American strong ale or like English strong ale, which is a big imperial ale that they're not going to classify as an actual style. And just, but I'm telling you right now, to me, there's a lot of rum barrel in here. That's at least what I'm perceiving. Could be apple brandy, but I don't think so. I think it's rum. The only reason I don't think it's apple brandy is I'm getting the rum spices, and I don't usually get that with apple brandy, but there is like this red apple. So let's break it down. Right at the forefront, there's caramel. There's toffee, but it almost feels, whatever base beer is not holding up well to the barrel. So there's like this caramel, toffee, caramel, toffee, almost molasses kind of flavor, but it's like watered down. It's like, I don't know how you would do that with caramel or toffee, like if you made it like, you thinned it out or something, or it's just like a really poorly constructed caramel or toffee. That's what I'm kind of getting at the forefront. Passes through a little bit of that marmalade, that orange marmalade on white bread. And then halfway through the palate, I get that apple. It's like a red apple core into like a tannic apple skin. And then it finishes semi to full on dry with a mild bitterness. And I'm left with this like, the dryness is like an oak tannin dryness. And there's just a lingering kind of like rum barrel, apple brandy barrel kind of feeling. I don't think this is bourbon or whiskey. I just feel like I've had enough rum barrel aged beers and I've had enough rum in my life where like, I feel like this is rum barrel. But then again, I butchered last week, so I don't know what I'm talking about. So, yeah, if this is like a hype beer or something really good, I'll tell you right now, it's just okay to my palate. Like it's not bad. I feel like the base beer is inferior to what I would like if it is an English barley wine or an old ale or like a Scotch ale, or even like if it's just a catch-all, again, American strong ale, English strong ale. It just, the base is kind of lacking and just doesn't seem to be able to hold up to the barrel. Like I said, there's a decent booziness on the back of the palate. Because I went so high last week, I went 9 when it was 4.9. Yeah, I missed badly. I want to say based on the booze, this is like 12%, but I'm not going to go that high. I am going to go somewhere between like 10 to 11 and probably closer to 10. Why? The body is substantially thin. Now, whether it's because the barrel's thinned out whatever the base beer was, or it's just not a great base to begin with, it's thin. So I don't think this is 12%. I'm going to go, last week's 4.9, I said 9. Instead of doing generic, I'll go 10.2. So this is what I think I'm going to lock in. All right, don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. I always overthink it. Don't overthink it. Let's just go with what you originally thought, and after tasting it, it didn't change that much. I'm just going to say, I'll say specifically English barley wine. Could be an English old ale. I think it's going to be one of those two. Could be American barley wine, but there's not any hop character here. Then again, I don't know how old it is. I did not look on the bottom of this. I have stopped doing that with these just so I don't know what the date is, if there is a date or if they say anything clever on there. I don't want to know. So I'm going to say this is an English barley wine. I'm going to say it's aged in rum barrels, and it's 10.2%. I don't think there's any adjuncts. Now, I will say I wouldn't be surprised if this is like a strong ale of some sort, if it just says strong ale, and if it's apple brandy. But I'm locking in English barley wine in rum barrels, 10.2%. We'll see. So, how do we get into this? He has a bunch of tape up top. All right, he has a starter for me. Nice. Okay. All right, so I don't know why I'm going to let you look at it first like I did last week, because you really can't see with my camera like what the beer is. So I'll let you look at the artwork, because the artwork looks cool based on what I'm seeing. Like, the artwork looks pretty cool. Looks like a cool can. All right, so time to see how shitty I did. Whodunit Brewery, established in 2016. This is a barrel-aged barley wine, the 2021 vintage. What is it barrel-aged in? And what is the percentage of alcohol? So they're out of Cranston, Rhode Island, natural unfiltered, may contain sediment, keep it simple, keep cold, drink fresh. Well, how fresh is this? Let me pour this in and see if there's anything on the bottom. Maybe there's like no information on this. It is the 2021 vintage. So at the very least, as I'm drinking this beer is like 15 months old. 10/28/21. So yeah, we're looking at like 17 months, just under 17 months right now, and it says full English. Does that mean it's an English barley wine? I don't know. All right, anyway, let's bust out the tablet. So this is Whodunit, oh, what's the name of it? Monsters in the Closet. I don't know if you guys can see that. Monsters in the Closet. So Whodunit Brewery, Monsters in the Closet. Yeah, this is... So another thing too I noticed, if you look at the back here, this looks like it's super dusty. It's not. It's just how the... how this looks, it's faded from me grabbing it so much. I noticed that when I did the unboxing of Wes's stuff. I was like, man, does that look dusty? Because I don't think it's dusty, and it wasn't. So what is this? Whodunit Monsters in the Closet, or Monster in the Closet. Let's see if it pops up. This is the 2021, right? Okay. It gets a... Oh, I didn't rate it. So it gets a 3.42. I was going to give this like a 3.6. It's not... I don't really... It's... I think the base beer for a barley wine is just substantially bad. All right, so 10%. The 2021 is 10%. Let me actually see if I can if they just have like a regular 10.4% for just as barrel aged barley wine. 10% if you just go up Monsters in the Closet, has 240 check-ins. 2021 version has 27 check-ins, 3.42. Friends, 2.75. Is that Stephen? I'll check that. Aged in second-use rum barrels with warm notes of caramel and spice. Yeah, but it's not all that great. So let's see what Stephen says of this, I'd assume. It is Stephen. So he had this for the first time on January 11, 2022, so that this beer was just over 2 months old. He says, disappointing. Barrel-aged barley wine is my favorite style, but this was quite thin and not particularly sweet. I don't get any barrel influence, really just malt and yeast. So I don't know what's happened in the last, 15 months, but all I get is barrel with just a disappointing base. So not far off. Then he had another can 2 weeks later, 16 days later, says, have a different can I had to share tonight, and unfortunately, it's still bad, and he gave it a 2.5, first time a 3. So I don't dislike it as much as Steven, but I will say, without question, this is not a great rum barrel-aged barley wine. And I will also say, hashtag fucking nailed it. Yeah, fucking nailed it. Back on the horse, good sirs. Rain on your parade. This immaculate palate back on track. Well, I guess. Wait until next week when I fuck it again. I will say this. Anybody out there who's never done a blind/mystery/whodunit beer review, you really don't know how hard these are. Really? I mean, to mess them up as bad as I did last week, there's no excuse. I duffed it. I fucked it. Like, it's whatever. But it's really fun when you nail something. Now, whether this is 10 or 10.4% or whatever, I said 10.2, so I'm right in the realm. I said barrel-aged English barley wine. It says barrel-aged barley wine. Didn't specify English, just said barley wine, I think, other in there. But it says full English on the bottom. So, like, I don't know. Rating-wise, I'd give myself like an A, maybe an A+. Like, how much better could I really do? I don't know, but I'd give myself A. And Steven, I appreciate you sending me a shitty beer, or giving one to me, because clearly he didn't like it. But he probably wanted to see, like, an unbiased take on this. And even though I rated this slightly higher than he did at 3.6 when he gave it a 3 originally, this is not, I don't dig it. Like, I don't dig it. And I don't know. So if anybody out there has had this beer, and again, I think like 342 check-ins or something like that, it was 3.42, is like whatever, 200 something check-ins. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't recommend this. Now, they look like they release it every year because there's a 2020 and a 2022. So I'd love to try a fresh can of this just to see, but I'm going to do one more sip, though. I just don't... The thing is like, the booze, like, it moved from my chest into my stomach now. I'm just feeling, like, kind of warm and toasty in my stomach. I don't like it. Yeah, it's a very... You know what? I'm not going to change it now. I'm still giving it a 3.6, but this is probably like a 3.25, 3.3, honestly. It's just not that good, so... Anyway, gonna shut down this Whodunit Beer review. Thank you, Steven, for letting me know at least that there's no information on here because it didn't have the ABV, didn't have the barrel age, what it was aged in. Didn't even say, it just said barrel aged barley wine 2021 vintage. So I'm glad I brought my tablet down here, looked it up because I fucking nailed it. And otherwise, I would have just turned off the review and been like, did I nail it? I nailed it. So yeah, I give this an A. Anybody? Or I give myself an A. Anybody out there? What would you give me in terms of letter grade? I don't see how anybody would give me like lower than an A-. Now, I would say if you want to factor in that Steven did say this was a big beer, that's fair. If you want to lower my rating because of that, I get that. He did say that, so I kind of had an idea. But to nail actually everything going on in here, I think I did a fucking great job. So anyway, huge thanks to Steven. I have, I think, 3 more from him. They're going to be a little fresher than these were, and I'm going to try to review them over the next 3 or 4 weeks, and we'll see what's going on. So I apologize for the longer review. Whodunits are typically way longer than my normal reviews. I'm sure a lot of people just fast forward to the actual review itself and then the reveal and everything. So anyway, huge thanks, Steven. Thanks to everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol, or Whodunit. Check back next week. I should have another one. Until then, cheers.